Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Today we're going to do a thought experiment, and I'm going to ask everybody who sees this to please leave me a comment and tell me what you think, because it's an issue that just popped up in my head, and like a lot of things that pop up in my head, I couldn't let it go. And so I thought it would be an interesting thing to discuss at a theoretical level, just to sort of feel people out, see what they think about this particular issue. So I want to take you a year or two into the future. And there's been a rise in violence nationally, and it turns out that there's a group of people that we'll call the boogeymen. They dress all in black, they wear ninja masks, and they believe that the lead boogeyman is an actual god, let's say. And as a result, anybody who doesn't believe in this lead boogeyman, well, they either are given a chance to, comply, or they're executed. And they believe the worst place in the world is the United States, and as a result, they take this idea a little bit too far when they create a mass casualty event in a major city. 94,000 people killed or wounded in this mass casualty situation. I'm not going to go into it any further than that, but it's awful, much worse than 9/11 in terms of the number of people affected. And as a result, the Congress gets together and the legislatures of the various states get together and they propose an amendment to the Constitution. And here's what the amendment to the Constitution says. The First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Seventh Amendments shall heretofore not apply to anyone identifying as a member of the boogeyman. Now, because most people aren't constitutional scholars, just a refresher here, First Amendment governs religious freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of petition, and freedom of assembly. Second Amendment's right to keep and bear arms. Fourth Amendment is protection from unreasonable searches and seizures. Fifth Amendment's right to a grand jury indictment, protection from self-incrimination, double jeopardy, and government takings. The Sixth Amendment, public trial, a speedy trial, a jury trial, the right to confront witnesses, and assistance of counsel. And the Eighth Amendment, the one I screwed up there for the Seventh Amendment, excessive bail is not permitted, nor are excessive fines, and you can't have cruel and unusual punishment. Those are the key rights that protect most citizens in this country, and those are the rights that would be affected by this amendment. Now, the question is, that is completely antithetical to the way the United States has always worked. In the United States, the First Amendment has always applied to everybody, regardless of race, creed, color, or whatever nutty belief you may have. You have a right to espouse it. That's the law. The Second Amendment generally has applied to pretty much everybody except felons and certain domestic abusers. The Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendments have always applied to everybody who got in trouble with the law. There are certain restrictions on police activity that can't apply. And as a result of that, I think the country has been generally much better protected than it would be if we lived in a police state. Now, all of a sudden, you're removing those protections by an amendment to the Constitution that essentially treats one isolated group of individuals differently from the rest of us. Now, the question this brings to mind is, can a constitutional amendment be unconstitutional? And I don't think we have an answer to that. Now, certainly with regard to state constitutional amendments, they have been found unconstitutional under the federal Constitution. But we have never had a situation where an amendment to the Constitution modified any of the basic Bill of Rights. And I'm not certain how the Supreme Court would look at it if someone challenged the legitimacy of this new amendment by essentially saying that it is incompatible with the other amendments to the Constitution, particularly the Bill of Rights. In a situation like that, what I could foresee is the Supreme Court going back to the founding documents, for example, the Declaration of Independence, and saying that all men are created equal and that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But you have to understand, although religious freedom was certainly important to the founders, it does not appear in the Declaration of Independence. Now, it does appear in the First Amendment, but if you are taking the First Amendment and excluding its operation from a certain group of individuals, what the Caroline Products footnote 4 from the Caroline Products case would call a discrete and insular minority, if you are suspending the application of that as to them, does that not throw the entire Constitution off of its axis? And I'd be interested to hear what you think. Now, I've tried to use the sort of a boogeyman approach. I don't want to aim this at a religious minority. I don't want to aim this at a political group. I don't want to aim this at any existing organization, because I don't believe any of them. First of all, I have difficulty believing that something like that could ever happen. I would like to think we are pretty well protected in this country. May be wrong, but that's what I would like to believe. And I'm very comfortable with that belief. But in the event something like that happened and the response nationally was, basically strip them of their rights as citizens, I can imagine that there would be a huge pushback, and that one of the things that might occur is that it might make it up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court might have to address these issues. So here are some things to think about when you're responding to this video. Do you think that these amendments, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, should they always apply to everyone who is in the country, irrespective of whether they are a citizen or not? So, for example, should an illegal immigrant be able to rely on the 4th Amendment? Should he be able to rely on the 5th Amendment? I think the case law is that yes, he can. But now, if you are going to exclude certain groups from that, what does that do to the application of the prior law and the basis for it? Might it cause a reduction in other civil liberties of other discrete and insular minorities? It's an interesting and I think legitimate question to ask. We have a problem in this country, I think, a lot of times by deciding that after the horse has left the barn, we need to strengthen the door. We're an open society. We believe in religious freedom. But as a result of that, some groups tend to hate us. And because they tend to hate us, they tend to attack us. But when you target a group, you're essentially throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And that's the metaphor I think that really applies here. So, again, the call of the question: can an amendment to the Constitution be itself unconstitutional? If it is not unconstitutional, then what is the impact of such an amendment? Give that some thought. That's your homework for this weekend. If you have an opportunity today, please go out of your way to do something nice for someone. Again, can be holding a door at the restaurant, picking up somebody's credit card that they drop at Walmart, and handing it back to them, obviously. All of these things are things that you can do that make the world a better place. And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see us all get along and live in a better place. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And of course, if you have comments to make about the thought experiment here, please put them in there. And of course, any of you who feel uncomfortable putting your thoughts into a comment section here, here's what I would tell you. You can email me. As you all know, my email is in the About section, but I'll put it up here so that you will have a reference for it. I think it's very important, if you feel even the least bit hinky about putting your thoughts down on the comment section, I think it's fine to send it to me by email. Now, I do reserve the right, unless you tell me otherwise, to publish these in another video. I'm going to go through this thought experiment looking at your comments and discussing those. I think that's just the only way we could do this and be fair. And if you ask me not to name you or publish your comments, I may paraphrase your comments without reference to you. Again, I hope you have a marvelous day today, and come see me down here at the beach next time. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.